Welcome to Free for the Fruit, where we talk about what it is that we need to do to prepare our minds, prepare our hearts to be free to receive the fruits of the Holy Spirit that He's trying to share with us. If you've ever thought, man, I know that I'm a Christian, but it seems like other people have more joy, more kindness, more self control, more of this good stuff of the Holy Spirit than me, then you are not alone. This podcast is for you to help you figure out how to become free for the fruit. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Free for the Fruit. This is going to be our last episode talking about our topic for the month, which comes from our truth bands, both for kids and for adults. The message on our truth bands this month is you can trust God with your people, just like He's got you, He's got them. Be at peace. And I think this one so clearly resonates around, focuses on truly being free for the fruit, which is the whole point of this podcast. We all crave that peace and that sense of ease, not because things are easy, but because we are so consciously aware that the Lord is real and that the Lord is moving. And really worrying, and especially worrying about other people, is one of the huge ways that we keep ourselves from being free for that fruit of peace. We really hold ourselves back from all that He wants to give us on that front, because at the end of the day, we only control such a small, itty bitty portion of the world, right? And the vast majority of it is ourselves. We mostly control ourselves. And sometimes we even do that poorly. So there's a limited amount of things that we can actually really, truly, strongly impact. Our family is definitely one of them. The people that you love is definitely an area of impact for you, but you don't have total control over them. I don't know how many times as a parent of young children, I've just had the thought like, oh my gosh, like I don't have any levers to pull to make you do something, or at least none that I'm comfortable with. There's obviously coercion that is used by people with nefarious ends in mind to make people do things. But that's not what I'm going to do to my children. I'm not looking to coerce them. I'm looking to get them to want to do something that's good for them. But at the end of the day, if I'm giving them that agency and that space to make their own decisions, then they can decide to say no. They can decide to step away from what it is that maybe even I know beyond a shadow of a doubt is the good thing for them. I can't make them eat something that I know is healthy for them, and I don't want to. I don't want there to be that element of force that breaks down the trust in our relationship. And so much of how we interact with other people, whether it's our children or our spouses or other family members, really close friends, people that we love, we want to approach it from a place where we really respect their autonomy, where we really recognize we don't control them. We're not trying to control them, hopefully. We are giving them the space to be themselves and let the Lord really be the one speaking into things. And so often uses us to do that. He lets us help because it's good for us to help. And if you're interested in more information about how the Lord is specifically inviting you personally to step into the lives of other people and be His hands and feet, I would really recommend that you check out manypartsministries.com. They are an organization that I'm executive director for that helps people figure out their spiritual gifts and exactly where it is they have been most empowered by the Lord to step in and really be instrumental in the lives of other people. And that's so often where we see the greatest fruit, when we do try and influence and impact other people. If you're not sure what that is for you, it can be really hard to discern how to move forward. And that's why it's just a really helpful thing to discern, to figure out where your personal spiritual gifts are. So that's an aside that can be helpful in speaking into how it is that you impact other people. But truly, we can only invite. And this is something that's demonstrated by the Lord Himself. There's never any coercion in how He shares the word, there's never any forcing in how He represents the kingdom. He always invites, but He also only invites. and people have to take their own step forward in faith to come into that, to cooperate with that. And it's the same in the lives of the people that we love. And so we can do that, follow that exact example of Jesus in being obedient, in making the invitation. We can't control whether the invitation is taken up or not. And so this raises an interesting question, which is, what does obedience look like within the various relationships that you have? How is it that you know that you've done your job, no more and no less, so that you can be free to experience the fruit of the Holy Spirit while also being faithful to the task at hand? Because obviously we can go to either extreme here. You can go to the extreme of, I control nothing, so I'm not going to do anything. Jesus is responsible for everything. I'm just going to be 100% passive, not try and speak the truth to others in love, not really express my concern about poor decisions someone is making. I'm just going to 100% be hands off and take trust to that place where we lose all of our agency. And that isn't the faith that we see. This is not the example of the early church, of St. Paul and St. Peter, all of these people walking out the early church life after having been discipled by Christ. But we also don't see them all the way on the other side, where there's a hyper micromanagement. I need to be in control of and know everything about everything and be the one making decisions. That's a cult thing. I had a very long period a couple of years ago where I was super fascinated by what allows cults to happen. What is it that makes it possible for cult leaders to gather a following? Really, not because I was interested in gathering a cult following, but it seemed so crazy. So many of the things that they said and did seemed so outlandish. It was just like, how do they get people to follow them in this? And that's what it comes down to, is this hyper control micromanagement where everything has to go through them. And there's a dependency built there that's very disordered. There should not be that level of dependency between adults or between members of a fraternal organization, something like that. And so we don't want to go to either extreme because, as with all things, the virtue lies in holding the tension in the middle. It would be much easier to collapse to one of the extremes. But what we're invited to do is hold both loosely, to recognize that we are ineffectual in a lot of situations, that we don't control things, that God is the one who really sets the agenda and controls how things move forward, but also other people have free will. And God continues to invite people into relationship with himself, that they can choose to say no. God doesn't override our free will. And then on the other side, our actions do matter. How we treat others does matter. What standards we set for other people does matter. We have to recognize that there's elements of both of these things that we need to hold in tension to be obedient to what it is that we're called to do within our individual relationships. There's going to be different things that are a function of obedience in different times in our relationships. So you might have, like I talked about last episode, things that are appropriate when your child is 2 that are not appropriate anymore when your child is 25. And also things that maybe are appropriate with a spouse when you're in your 20s, maybe letting them make a lot of their own decisions or something like that and not trying to speak into it very much. That maybe later in life you become the caregiver and you need to be a lot more active in those things for them. And so, really reflecting on the actual reality of the situation is helpful. And one of the most clarifying questions you can ask yourself is, can I actually control this? Is this something that I actually have any agency in? Or is this something that falls under the other person's free will? Or under what it is that God is going to take care of in their life. So, examples of this might be, let's say you're worried about your preteen around technology. You can control whether or not they have a personal device. That's something that is appropriate and obedient for you to control as a parent based on what you think is really truly best for them and their soul. But whether or not your child ever accesses the internet when you're around is going to be built upon the formation you've given them to that point. But you also can't control every second of your preteen child's life. That's on their paper. They have free will to decide what they're going to do with whatever freedom they happen to have. And you really are dependent on how you have raised them to that point. And then that's the point where you trust it to their free will, and then ultimately up to God, that even if they encounter something that's damaging to them, damaging to their soul, that the Lord is going to walk with them faithfully through that and continue to invite them into encounter with Himself. It's hard. It's really hard to let go. But one of the most life changing skills that you could ever develop is the ability to recognize what it is that is right for you to control and what you can never control, no matter how much you desire to. It helps you remember that you're not God and keep correct focus on how it is that you can move forward in life with peace. This is where the fruits of the Holy Spirit become detached from circumstance, where you can have someone you love be away from the faith, away from maybe your family, current relationship with you, all of these different painful situations in harm's way. And we can still experience the fruit of the Holy Spirit, not because we don't care about them, not because we've thrown them out of our lives, but because we recognize what we can control and what we can't. And we've decided to show up simply in obedience to what is right for us to add to the relationship right now. So these will be available as our subscription until the end of October. You can see here the two different designs for kids and for adults. Coordinate, go together, but they're not exactly the same. This is great for parent-child sets that like to coordinate but not be matchy-matchy. And these will be available on our website, whatever is left after the subscriptions go out forward in the future. But this is the only month where you can get two for the price of one with the subscription, but you will be able to get these bracelets even into the future on our website. We are also going to chat a lot more next week about Memento Mori, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek at this Memento Mori bracelet. If you are listening to the audio podcast, you're going to have to go check out pinksaltriot.com and search Memento Mori, because we've got these great skull and flower elastic bracelets. And on the inside, it just says Memento Mori, remember you must die. It's a great unisex design in the medium size, so it fits the largest possible range of people. And we're going to be diving deep into the history of Memento Mori next week and why this is something that might be a helpful spiritual practice for you to incorporate in your life, even when it's not spooky season. God bless you. I hope you have a great week.